Hey there, beautiful people. It's Dina. Bring another daily dose. I got a question for you today. Are you a thermostat or a thermometer? You might be asking, what does that mean? Good question. Well, I'm going to explain. So this morning I woke up and I was in a very good mood. I had a good night's sleep and I was ready to embrace the day. I got in the shower and I was starting to get ready. And then my daughter woke up, Gracie, and she was in a mood. She was in a mean mood. And it didn't matter how many times I tried to help her process that, it seemed to get worse and worse and worse. And the more she was coming at me and yelling at me, it was just something simple. She wanted my phone. She wanted to play a game on my phone. And I was using my phone at the time. I was listening to a sermon. And I told her that I needed my phone during the day, that she could play with it later. But I could also put the same game on her phone. She just has an old phone that we use that has games and stuff on it. Anyway, she didn't want that. She wanted my phone. And I just said, no, you can't have my phone right now. She started getting all upset with me and then telling me I was breaking her heart and I was being mean. And I know every mom hears this. Like every mom hears, I hate you. And that wasn't even really the issue. The issue is that she just kept pressing in, even though I was trying to maintain my peace. I was trying to maintain my joy. I was already in a good mood. And she kept pressing in. And then she slammed her door and she was in her room yelling. So I walked in the room and I said, okay, we're going to take authority over that. And we prayed and I took authority over whatever unclean spirit was trying to operate in the house because it was getting out of hand. Her behavior was getting out of hand. Now, I'm not saying every time your child has a behavior issue that it's some unclean spirit that's operating. I just know I want to be thorough. My attempts to try to calm her down were met with resistance. So I'm like, okay, let's try all things that we have to do here to try to break this off. So a lot of times when this happens, we can break it off and she'll start to come out of that mood. And then there's some times where she just doesn't. So I found my spirit getting upset. No matter how many times I tried to step away from the situation, she kept coming at me. This isn't just a situation with moms. It could be anybody that's doing this. So I asked you the original question, are you the thermostat or are you the thermometer? So the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer is a thermostat sets the atmosphere. It sets the temperature of the room or the house. And anytime that temperature drops or raises, the thermostat kicks in to try to regulate that so that the temperature is the perfect temperature that you set. So if it gets too cold in the winter, the heat kicks on, so the temperature is back to the temperature that you set it. If it's in the summer and you've got the air conditioning on, and it starts to get too hot, the air conditioning will come on and will set the atmosphere back to the temperature of your desire. A thermometer measures the temperature in the room. It becomes whatever the atmosphere is. So I want to be a thermostat. I want to choose the atmosphere in my home. I want to choose peace and joy amidst the difficult circumstances. I do not want to be a thermometer and let the atmosphere or somebody else dictate my emotions. Sometimes we do have to take our authority over the situation because there are spirits that are operating, and I don't know whether you believe that or not. That's what I believe. Everything that I've studied, I know that there is an enemy that is trying to disrupt things so that I get off of my game. Anytime we are in exhaustion or we fall prey to the argument or whatever that is, where our guard is down is when the enemy attacks. So I choose to stand and fight my ground against the enemy. I'm not fighting against my daughter. I'm not fighting against my husband or any flesh and blood. I am fighting against something in the hidden realm, in the spirit realm, that is trying to disrupt the plans of God for my life. But he can't do that. No weapon formed against me will prosper. So there might be a situation that comes up like this, and you find yourself, okay, I've tried and tried and tried, and this situation won't relent. What do you do to maintain your peace and joy? Well, you remember that you're a thermostat. You remember that you set the atmosphere. You take control over that atmosphere. Now, that does not mean taking control over the human being that's causing the problem. It means you take control over your emotions. So I could have been upset, and for a moment I was. I even, raised my voice, and I don't think there's anything wrong with raising your voice. I think even Jesus did that from time to time. There's a scripture that talks about him going into the temple and just flipping tables because people were sacrificing idols, and he just went in and just flipped the tables, and he was angry. And I'm not saying that we don't have times where we're angry. I was definitely angry this morning. But it's whether we sin in that anger, whether we let that anger fester, whether we let it take our peace and joy. So throughout the morning, I was still having battles with Gracie. I don't know what it was that she was going through, and we worked through it. She's still in a bad mood. She's downstairs in her room right now, and that's fine. But I'm not going to let that affect me. But there was a time where I would have let that disrupt my whole day. I would have let it disrupt my whole week. I mean, gosh, that's the way we lived all the time. When you're dealing with high behavior issues or any toxic situation in your life, or honestly, just difficulties, stresses, health issues, marriage issues, financial issues, it can take its toll on you. And the more exhausted you are, frustrated from those situations, the less you will be the thermostat. The more you're going to be the thermometer, the more you're going to come into alignment with whatever that atmosphere is. So if the atmosphere is frustration, or the atmosphere is anger, the atmosphere is whatever that might be, it could be fatigue, then you're going to come into alignment with that versus saying, no, not on my watch. No, no one's going to take my joy. No one's going to take my peace. I will set the atmosphere. And I believe, honestly, as women and as moms and wives, we have the ability to be able to set the atmospheres in our home, good or bad. There were times that I was setting a negative atmosphere because I was always angry. I was always complaining. I was always just in a frustrated mood, and it affected everybody around me. And then there's times that I chose to set the atmosphere of joy and peace. And that's what I do for the most part every single day. And again, this is a journey. I say this all the time. This is an ongoing working out of your salvation. I'm not saying I get it perfect. There are plenty of times where I end up becoming the thermometer and I'm not actually setting the atmosphere. But for the most part now, even if I'm in a situation like I was in this morning, I take authority over that. And again, it's not just necessarily taking authority over an unclean spirit. It's just taking authority over the negativity in the environment, the frequency, whatever that is, and say, I'm choosing to operate in love. I'm choosing to operate in peace and joy and self-control. So just because you might have to yell at your child does not mean you're acting out of self-control. Sometimes a firm tone is what that child needs. I know for Gracie, I don't know if you can agree with this with your child, I'm not one of those parents that's going to say, oh, honey, please, can you please stop doing that? That just does not work. If I use a firm tone and I said, now, it stops now, then she will pay attention. But I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm not doing it to yell at her. I'm doing it to get her attention, to get her to understand that this behavior is not acceptable. And we are not going to allow that in our home. But most times I will stop and I will pray with her. I don't just yell at her and then tell her to stop. I want her to have peace and joy. I want her to know how to also be a thermostat someday and not a thermometer. First of all, God has given us everything in us to be like Christ, to set the atmosphere, to have all those fruits of the Spirit that operate within us. So I encourage you that if you're going through something, take a minute to stop and realize maybe you're being a thermometer and it's time to be a thermostat and set the atmosphere the way you want it. You can choose to still rise above it, and you can choose to go and have a good day and do what it was that you originally planned, even though there was a disruption or a delay that came in that tried to get you off of your game. So anyway, I hope this encourages you. Please share this with somebody else that could really use it. There's a lot of mamas out there that are dealing with exactly what I just described to you today. It's their daily life. So please share this with somebody that could really use encouragement. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel, being a part of this journey with me. Please take the time to just like, subscribe, and all that stuff so that it can reach more people and more moms and encourage more people. The creator of the universe loves you, and I love you, so I can't wait for us to be back together again. Have an awesome day.